Hello, friends. It's Kimberly here with Mother Be Beautiful. Have a quick thought today for you on blood pressure. And I've been thinking about this for a while. And then sitting here eating lunch with my son and his wife. Well, I have a girlfriend and her husband. His blood pressure's been running really high, and they think he might have had a stroke. So it's certainly timely. Do you know what the danger signals are of a high blood pressure? How would you tell if your blood pressure was high without checking your blood pressure? What do you think you would feel like that would make you want to stop and have somebody check your blood pressure? These are all really important questions. So if you think about a Tom and Jerry cartoon, if you remember when they would turn on the hose and the pressure in the hose would build and build and build and it would like pop. It's kind of like that. When the pressure is really high, most people, dangerously high, people will have some symptoms. They might have headaches. Some people have said that they don't really have headaches, but they'll feel foggy. Headaches, pressure, sometimes they'll have chest pains, not always. Sometimes they'll just have this heavy feeling. Sometimes they'll have nausea or a feeling in their stomach, burning. Those are all real danger signals. And danger signals are your warning. And it doesn't mean, let me see how I feel tomorrow. It means you need to check your blood pressure and make sure you're okay, and quite possibly call 911. So we're going to talk about those right now. But before we do, I wanted to share with you a story so you know why it's really important. I did have a girlfriend some years ago, and she had a sudden headache. And we had talked a little bit before, and she said, you know, I had the feeling that I should probably, she worked in a different department. She wasn't a nurse, but she worked in the hospital where I worked. And she said, you know, I figured I'd just swing by there and have them check my blood pressure and, you know, make sure everything's okay. But on her way, while she was feeling symptomatic, on her way, she had to run some errands, stop at the post office, the dry cleaners. She ran a couple of errands, and then she pulled in the parking lot of the hospital. She had a massive stroke. And to this day, she has trouble speaking. She has trouble using, you know, her arm and her leg. She still walks a little funny. She has problems to this day. That's hard. That's really, really hard. Talk about inconvenient. You know, if stopping for a minute and checking your blood pressure is inconvenient, think about the inconvenience of a lifetime without being able to express yourself. That's hard. A lifetime of not being able to work anymore. That's hard. You know, guys, everything comes with a price tag, and you either pay it up front by taking good care of yourself, or you're likely going to pay it at the end in terms of healthcare costs. That's not fun. I'd much rather pay it at the front. My son's going, ooh, ooh, ooh. He's so awesome. At any rate, pay it up front. It's so much more fun, right? You know, for a lot of us, we work our whole lives and we have these high-stress lives, but we think it's magically going to be better when we retire. By that time, you've worn out your engine. Take time right now in the day-to-day to live your life beautifully and take good care of yourself. What are some of the things that cause high blood pressure? Now, genetics is a part you can't do much about. I can't wave a magic wand and change your genetics. So instead, I want to focus on the things that you have personal control over. You can't go back and change your genetics. You can't do anything about that. But you have 100% control over what you put in your mouth. You have 100% control over what you do with your body. Or you're moving it, or you're sitting around all day. You have 100% control over the thoughts that you put in your head. So if we take the energy that we would spend worrying about stuff we don't have any control over, and instead, if we could harness that energy and put it in the things that we have the power to do something about, oh my gosh, magic happens, right? So let's talk about diet, things that affect your blood pressure, things that are obviously foods that are high in salt. And I'm not talking about your salt shaker. You know, I don't have to add salt to my food, and I can still overload on salt. Anything that's frozen, prepared, anything that's canned, anything that's easy. Some people say, well, anything that's yummy. I beg to differ. But if you have anything frozen, prepared, anything I can, you can bet any sauces or flavorings, they're going to be high in salt. Salt Makes everything yummy. It brings out the flavors in other foods. That's why it's used so much. It's a cheap preservative. It's great, right? So be careful. Get good at reading labels. When you turn a label over, when you look at a label, it's going to, hey, James, will you bring me a ketchup container or something? Sure. My son's home with his beautiful wife. So if we look here, well, this is an easy one, right? If we look here on the nutrition label, you'll see here, there's not a whole lot here, but here, if you look down, you're looking for sodium. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. But here it says 180 milligrams, and then you see this daily value next to that. So I can look at this and I can say, well, per serving, what's a serving? A serving, this says, is 1 tablespoon. Or sorry, 1 teaspoon. So a teaspoon has 190 milligrams of sodium. That's 8% of what I can have for a day. So I can do the math and I can say, if I have a little bit of this, just a teaspoon, that's 1/10 of what I can have for the day. So if I use this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, a little bit on my eggs, a little bit on my chicken, a little bit in my beans, there's almost half of what I can have for the day in that, right? 8 times 3, 24, so I would just round it up to 30. And then in my head, I go to, that's almost half of it. That's a third. That's a third of the sodium that I should have for the day. Get used to reading your labels. It doesn't mean that you can't have your favorite foods anymore, but it means if you read labels, you're going to figure out, do I have enough in my sodium budget, right? If you like a kielbasa sausage, and I'm not going to talk you into not eating them anymore, I'm going to tell you that on the day that you want to indulge, then watch your sodium before that and after that, and make sure that you save up, that you have enough in your sodium bank that you can make that withdrawal, that you can have that. I once went to a woman's house, her blood pressure was sky high, and she was symptomatic. And come to find out, she just had a teriyaki bowl. Have you seen the sodium on there? It's got like something like 1,500 milligrams of sodium. There's a day and a half's worth of sodium in there. So if you have hypertension, if you have symptoms of hypertension, it behooves you to get an electronic cuff. They're easy to use for yourself. I like the ones that use on the wrist because they're easy. I've tested them a lot. I use them in my practice all the time, and they're very accurate as long as you use them properly. When you use an electronic cuff, it's important that you remember that if you have an irregular rhythm, if your heartbeat isn't nice and steady, but if it's irregular, sometimes it won't read accurately. If you're moving around or coughing or talking or whatever, sometimes it won't read accurately. If your batteries are low, sometimes it won't read accurately. If you get a funny number, then double check it, right? So, but if you use an electronic cuff on the wrist, wherever you push the button, that part you want to be at about heart level. So if I use a wrist cuff, I want that to be in your heart level is right under your breast. So right about nipple line, folks, that's where the base of your heart is. So if I'm holding my electronic cuff on my wrist, I'm going to have my arm about heart level, right? And then I push the button, I hold still. And at the same time, I'm going to count my pulse. If I can feel a heartbeat every time that a heartbeat shows up on the machine, it's probably accurate. If what I'm getting and the machine getting is different, then it might not be accurate, right? It might be accurate, but it might not. If I'm using one on the wrist and the part that I push the button on is separate, then I want to make sure that that base unit is level with my heart. Here's the deal. If it's below my heart, I can get a false high. And if it's above my heart, I can get a false low. So that's why your positioning is important. If you check a blood pressure, what's a normal blood pressure? We know like it's somewhere around 120/70, right? Somewhere around there. When that top number approaches 200 and the bottom number approaches 100, you're getting in a danger zone. You know, once that top number's around 200 and the bottom number's around 100, we worry about strokes, right? So if you were to check it and you were to get a high blood pressure like that, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have a stroke. It means, ooh, I wonder why that's so high. And then you're going to ask yourself, how do I feel? If you're symptomatic, you have a headache, you're feeling funny in your head, vision changes, seeing stars, squiggly lines, nausea, stomach pain, anything like that, it's a 911 call. It doesn't mean I'm going to wait and see how I feel in the morning, because you might not have a morning, right? It means I'm going to call 911. If, on the other hand, it's high like that, but you feel okay, you certainly need to talk to your doctor. Now, if you're on a blood pressure medication and you're knowledgeable and you're checking your blood pressures, you have a good rapport with your doctor. Sometimes you call them and you say, you know what, my blood pressure's high. I feel okay, but you know, I did have a hot dog at the church picnic today. You know, he might well tell you, well, let's take an extra blood pressure pill, or let's take a half. He might give you some directions that you can follow from home, especially if he knows that you have a blood pressure cuff and you're checking your blood pressure and you know what to watch for. Be really careful, folks. It is so worth it to live a life of independence and be free to live the way that you want to do. Sometimes we mistake an inconvenience right now for being an inconvenience. You know, that maybe a little inconvenience now will save you a lifetime of inconvenience and incapacity. So with that being said, please, please, please take care of yourself. You know, you only have one body. It's a beautiful gift given to you by your maker. Take care of it. Show him your gratitude by taking care of it. If you had a Porsche in your driveway, I was telling my husband last night had a little high blood pressure. He's had a lot of stress at work. That can affect your blood pressure too. Smoking affects your blood pressure. Oh my gosh, quit smoking. If you smoke, quit. And if you've quit before and you've gone back to it, don't beat yourself up. Just quit again and quit again and quit again. Just keep trying. You're not perfect. Nobody is. If you were, nobody would stand to be around you. Just do your best. And every day get up and try to do a little bit more. Stress is important. Let's talk about that for a minute. A lot of things happen when you're stressed. You know, way back in the day, when your late great Uncle Joe caveman was around, and when the dinosaur came and was upon him, he either ran from the dinosaur or he fought him off, right? And so when he did that, when he had that fight or flight reaction, a bunch of chemicals dumped into his bloodstream. His adrenal glands kicked in and gave his muscles energy to run or to fight. Other things, other energy was taken away from structures or organs that might not help him in that fight or flight. So here's the problem. Uncle Joe, he either did. He ran or he fought, and he expended that energy and moved those chemicals around, and then he rested and recuperated. Today, we don't get chased by dinosaurs, but we do get chased by deadlines, by bills, by work, by our many commitments, by kids that yell at each other, by, you know, student loans or whatever it is. And we still have that same reaction, that same fight or flight. But we're not fighting and we're not fleeing. We just live. And some people, you'll ask them about their stress, and they say, well, I don't have any stress. Well, it's because they've been cruising at such a high, stressful altitude that they don't know any difference. So really check in with yourself and see where you are with that stress. Exercise is super duper important. It gives you the opportunity to burn off some of those chemicals and protect yourself, just like Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe did well after he fought or fled, ran away, because he was able to use those chemicals for what they were intended for. When you have a high stress life and you're not exercising, all those chemicals just stay in your bloodstream and they wreak havoc on you. So exercise, eat right, drink lots of water. If you're looking for an energy boost during the day, please don't reach for a Red Bull. Don't reach for a Diet Coke or a regular Coke or a Mountain Dew or anything there like that. The reason why you need that energy is because quite likely you haven't gotten enough sleep and you need sleep. And maybe you haven't been eating at regular intervals, right? Maybe you're running your fancy Porsche on watered down gas. Would you do that really, folks? If you had a fancy car sitting in your driveway, you wouldn't do that. Your body's a Porsche. Feed it premium fuel. Don't feed it watered down sugary crap. Don't do it. You'll pay the price either up front or you'll pay it at the end. In my mind, good self-care is a lot easier to pay up front than the bill that's going to come due when you haven't taken care of yourself, right? Take care of yourself. I believe in you. Scullion%. If you have questions, post them. I'd love to hear from you. Have a great day.